Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Infidelity Tales Lab. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know, what part of the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Architect of Deception. Wyatt Delgado surveyed the Oakland skyline from his corner office, the last rays of California sunset glinting off his Rolex, a gift from his wife Vanessa on their 10th anniversary 3 years ago. At 42, Wyatt had built Phoenix development from the ground up, transforming it into one of the Bay Area's premier real estate development firms. Burning the midnight oil again, Prescott Ryland leaned against the doorframe, his tailored suit still immaculate despite the late hour. They'd met in college, roommates at Stanford, and had been inseparable ever since. When Wyatt started Phoenix 15 years ago, Prescott was his first hire and now served as CFO. Just wrapping up the Emeryville proposal. If we land this contract, we're looking at our biggest year yet. Wyatt ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair, exhaustion evident in the lines around his eyes. You need to delegate more. Theo's basketball game is tomorrow, right? Prescott's tone was casual, but something in his eyes made Wyatt pause. Yeah, wouldn't miss it. Wyatt frowned. You coming too? Of course. Gotta support my godson. Prescott smiled. Vanessa mentioned she's making that paella he loves afterward. Wyatt's phone buzzed, speaking of his wife. Hey babe, just checking when you'll be home. Theo's asking about his science project. Vanessa's voice had a musical quality that still captivated him after 13 years of marriage. Another hour. Tell him I'll help him finish it tonight, promise. After hanging up, Wyatt turned to Prescott. You remember when we were starting out? Sleeping on office floors, living on ramen. And now look at us. Prescott gestured around the opulent office. You've got the dream home in Piedmont, beautiful wife, amazing kid. You won, brother. Wyatt nodded, unaware of the calculation behind Prescott's eyes, unaware that the life he'd built was already being dismantled piece by piece. At home, Wyatt helped his 10-year-old son Theo with his solar system project. Vanessa moved around the kitchen, her dark hair falling in waves down her back. At 38, she was still stunning. A former art gallery director who'd given up her career to raise their son, but had recently been restless, talking about getting back into the art world. Dad, can we go camping this weekend? Like we used to? Theo asked, adjusting Neptune's position. Not this weekend, bud. The Emeryville presentation is Monday. Wyatt ruffled his son's hair. But soon, I promise. That's what you always say. Theo's disappointment was palpable. Later that night, Wyatt found Vanessa in their bathroom, typing rapidly on her phone. She startled when he entered, quickly setting the device screen down. Everything okay? He asked. Just Marina from my art group. We're planning a show. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You should join us for dinner tomorrow. The whole group's getting together. I'll try. He kissed her forehead, missing how she tensed at his touch. As Wyatt slept that night, Vanessa slipped from bed and made a call from their walk-in closet. It's almost ready, she whispered. 2 more weeks. You sure about this? The male voice was concerned. Absolutely. He's barely present anymore. Hasn't really looked at me. At us. In years. She glanced back at the bedroom where her husband slept. He's a good father, but he's neglected what matters most, the voice finished. I understand. Vanessa ended the call, unaware of a small device blinking silently on the top shelf, a security measure Wyatt had installed months ago when he'd first noticed her growing distance. He hadn't checked it in weeks, too busy with work to confront the possibility that something was wrong in his marriage. Across town, Dante Romano, Phoenix Development's head of security and Wyatt's old friend from his Marine Corps days, sat in his modest apartment reviewing security logs. A dedicated bachelor at 45, Dante had joined Phoenix after retiring from military service with a Purple Heart and the loyalty that came from having Wyatt pull him out of a firefight in Fallujah. Dante noticed an irregularity in the company's server access logs. Someone had been reviewing confidential files at unusual hours. He made a note to mention it to Wyatt tomorrow. The pieces were already in motion, the betrayal architected to perfection. Wyatt Delgado was a man who trusted deeply, who believed in loyalty above all else. It would be his undoing, and later his greatest weapon. Chapter 2. Fissures in the Foundation. Theo's basketball game was packed with parents. Wyatt arrived late, slipping into the bleachers beside Vanessa, who was engrossed in conversation with Sylvia Ochoa, another team mom. Prescott sat on Vanessa's other side, unusually animated as he cheered Theo's team. "Sorry I'm late," Wyatt whispered to Vanessa. Conference call ran long. She nodded without looking at him, her perfume mixing with something else, a cologne he didn't recognize. At halftime, Wyatt's phone rang. "Dante. Boss, we need to talk. Something's off with the Emeryville numbers. Can it wait until Monday?" "Not really. Someone's been altering projections, making us look more solvent than we are." Wyatt's stomach dropped. "I'll stop by the office after the game." When he returned to the bleachers, Prescott was explaining a play to Theo, who looked at him with admiration. Something about the tableau bothered Wyatt, but he pushed the feeling aside. After the game, which Theo's team won, they returned home for the promised paella. Prescott stayed, as did Sylvia and her daughter Zoe, Theo's classmate. The adults drank wine, while the kids played video games upstairs. "I need to run to the office," Wyatt announced after dinner. Something came up with the Emeryville project. On a Saturday, Vanessa's tone was sharp. "Theo will be disappointed. It's important. I won't be long." Wyatt kissed her cheek, noticing how she stiffened. At the office, Dante showed him the discrepancies. "Someone's cooking the books, making it look like we have more capital than we do. Who would have access to this?" Wyatt asked, though a sinking feeling told him he already knew. "Only top-level executives. You, Prescott, maybe Lorena from accounting." Wyatt thought of Prescott, his oldest friend, his son's godfather. "Keep digging, but keep it quiet." "And Dante? Don't tell Prescott about this." Dante's eyebrow raised. "You sure?" "Just a precaution." When Wyatt returned home, the house was quiet. He found Vanessa in their bedroom, on her laptop. "Everyone gone?" he asked. "Hours ago." Her tone was cool. "Theo's asleep. He waited up for you." Guilt gnawed at Wyatt. "I'll make it up to him." "Will you?" She closed her laptop. "Do you know that Prescott takes him for ice cream every Wednesday after school? That he hasn't missed a single one of Theo's games all season? When was the last time you were that consistent?" Wyatt stared at her, surprised by the vehemence in her voice. "Is something going on, Vanessa?" She softened. "I'm just tired of watching our son get disappointed. You built this company for us, but we never see you anymore." Wyatt sat beside her. "The Emeryville deal will change that. Once it's finalized, I'm taking a step back. More family time. Promise." Her eyes met his, and for a moment, he saw vulnerability there. "Promise." He kissed her, and this time she didn't pull away. Later that night, Wyatt couldn't sleep. He slipped into his home office and accessed the security system, checking the camera in the closet he hadn't reviewed in months. What he saw chilled him to the bone. Vanessa and Prescott, locked in an embrace. Whisper plans. Mentions of offshore accounts, custody arrangements, a new start. "Once the divorce is finalized, we'll have everything," Prescott said on the recording. "His money, his son, his company." "What about Wyatt?" Vanessa asked. "He'll be too destroyed to fight back. Trust me." Wyatt sat in the darkness, a cold rage building inside him. He'd trusted them both completely, his wife and his oldest friend. Now he understood the cologne he'd smelled, the sudden interest in Theo's activities, the altered financial records. He thought of confronting them immediately, but stopped himself. No, this required precision. Planning. He texted Dante. "Need to see you. My house. 5 a.m. Enter through the back. Tell no one." Then he returned to bed, lying beside the woman who was plotting his destruction, and began to formulate a plan of his own. Chapter 3. The Collapse. Over the next 2 weeks, Wyatt played his role perfectly. He worked late hours, missed dinners, remained oblivious to the betrayal unfolding in his own home. Meanwhile, he and Dante gathered evidence. Financial records showing Prescott's systematic embezzlement, recordings of conversations between the conspirators, documentation of the offshore accounts where his money was being funneled. "They're planning to move fast," Dante said during one of their pre-dawn meetings. "Prescott's liquidating assets, transferring funds. And there's this." He handed Wyatt a manila envelope. Inside were photos of Prescott at a law office with Theo. What the hell is this? He took the kid to meet with a family court attorney, specialist in custody cases. Vanessa signed consent forms for certain medical evaluations, building a case that you're an absent father, potentially unfit. The betrayal cut deeper than Wyatt had imagined. And Theo? Does he know? The kid thinks it's all normal, spending time with his godfather, doctor's appointments. He has no idea. Wyatt nodded, his expression hardening. What about Lorena from accounting? She's involved too. Been falsifying records on Prescott's orders. There are others, the family court lawyer, a banker handling the offshore transfers. At least 6 people involved in the scheme. Wyatt's phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Working late again? Prescott's coming for dinner. Theo wants to show him his science project grade. They're getting bolder, Wyatt muttered. Time to accelerate our timeline. On Thursday, Wyatt told Vanessa he'd be gone overnight for a client meeting in Sacramento. Instead, he checked into a hotel downtown and finalized his counter-strategy with Dante and 2 trusted associates. Renata Costa, a former prosecutor who now worked as Phoenix's legal counsel, and Boyd Finch, a private investigator who'd helped vet potential business partners over the years. Everything's in place, Renata confirmed. The moment they make their move, we're ready. Friday morning, Wyatt received the call that would set everything in motion. Mr. Delgado? This is Principal Valdez from Oak Ridge Elementary. I'm calling because someone other than your wife picked up Theo early today. They had proper authorization, but we like to confirm with both parents. Wyatt's heart raced. Who picked him up? Mr. Ryland. Your wife submitted the paperwork last week authorizing him. I see. Thank you for letting me know. Wyatt's voice remained steady despite the adrenaline surging through him. He immediately called Vanessa, feigning panic. The school called. Someone other than you picked up Theo? Oh, I meant to tell you. Her voice was casual. Prescott took him for a dental appointment. He's napping now. Don't worry. I'm coming home, Wyatt said, already signaling to Dante, who was waiting nearby. That's not necessary. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Wyatt hung up and turned to Dante. It's happening. Wyatt and Dante arrived at the house to find it empty, just as expected. The security camera showed exactly what Wyatt had described in his opening narration. Vanessa, Theo, and Prescott loading suitcases into Prescott's Range Rover. On Wyatt's desk lay divorce papers, already filed weeks ago. Wyatt's phone rang with his bank's fraud department. Sir, your wife and another man just tried to withdraw everything from your accounts. They had your social security card and birth certificate. Did you stop the transaction? Wyatt asked, following the script he and Renata had prepared. Yes, sir. There was a fraud alert placed on your account yesterday. Thank you. Wyatt hung up and turned to Dante. Now we move. Across town, Vanessa, Prescott, and a sleepy Theo were at First National Bank, confusion evident on their faces. What do you mean the accounts are frozen? Prescott demanded. The bank manager remained calm. I'm sorry, sir, but there's been a security flag placed on these accounts. We can't authorize any withdrawals at this time. Vanessa's phone buzzed with a text. I know everything. You might want to check your email before you go any further. W. Her blood ran cold as she opened her email to find a video file. Footage from their bedroom closet, capturing every detail of their plan. We need to go. Now, she told Prescott, grabbing Theo's hand. But as they exited the bank, they found themselves surrounded, not by police, but by a team of lawyers led by Renata Costa. Ms. Delgado, Mr. Ryland, Renata said calmly. I have emergency custody orders and financial injunctions that require your immediate attention. Theo looked around, confused. Where's Dad? What's happening? Vanessa's phone rang. Wyatt. She answered, her hand shaking. You thought I wouldn't fight for my son? His voice was ice cold. Did I just roll over while you and my so-called best friend stole everything I built? Wyatt, please, we can talk about this. Fear crept in her voice. Oh, we're past talking. Here's what happens now. Theo comes with me. The custody order's already signed by Judge Hernandez. Every account you've touched is frozen. Every plan you've made is exposed. You can't do this. I already have. But this is just the beginning. Wyatt's voice dropped lower. You wanted to destroy me? Now you'll see what destruction really looks like. As Renata took Theo gently by the hand, explaining that he was going to see his dad, Vanessa and Prescott realized the magnitude of their miscalculation. They had thought Wyatt was oblivious, distracted by work, and blind to their betrayal. They couldn't have been more wrong. As Theo was driven away in Renata's car, Prescott turned to Vanessa, his face ashen. "What just happened?" "We underestimated him," she whispered, watching her son disappear from view. "That's what happened." From the shadows of a nearby building, Boyd Finch captured their expressions of shock and defeat, photos that would serve as the first page in Wyatt's album of revenge. Chapter 4: Foundations of Retribution. 3 months after what Wyatt now called the betrayal, he sat in the remodeled living room of his Piedmont home. The space transformed from Vanessa's light, airy design to something more masculine and minimal. Evidence of her had been purged from every corner. Theo entered, backpack slung over one shoulder. At 11, he was tall for his age, with Wyatt's strong jaw and Vanessa's expressive eyes. The past months had aged him in subtle ways. "How was the math test?" Wyatt asked, setting aside architectural plans. "Got an A." Theo's voice was subdued. "Dad, when can I see Mom?" Wyatt's expression remained neutral, though something cold flickered in his eyes. "Your mother made choices, Theo. Choices that hurt this family. But she calls every day. She's crying all the time." Theo dropped onto the sofa. "And Uncle Prescott. He is not your uncle." Wyatt's tone sharpened. "Prescott Ryland is a thief who tried to steal from us. He is nothing to us now." The temporary custody arrangement granted Wyatt full physical custody, with Vanessa allowed only supervised visits, a situation Wyatt had engineered through evidence of parental alienation and attempted parental kidnapping. Dante appeared in the doorway. "The contractor's here about the office renovations." Wyatt nodded. "Homework first, then dinner," he told Theo, who trudged upstairs without argument. In Wyatt's home office, now fitted with enhanced security and monitoring systems, he reviewed plans with Dante and Renata. "Phase 1 is complete," Renata confirmed. "Vanessa's legal counterattack has been neutralized." Judge Hernandez was quite impressed by the evidence of conspiracy. "And Phoenix Development?" Wyatt asked. "The board has officially removed Prescott as CFO. The forensic audit revealed he'd been embezzling for nearly 2 years, over $4 million. Dante handed Wyatt a tablet with the financial report. "With the criminal charges pending, he's basically unemployable." Wyatt nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. "And our other projects?" Boyd Finch joined them, setting down a leather portfolio. "Lorena from accounting has accepted our offer of immunity in exchange for her full testimony. She's provided details on everyone involved in the conspiracy." "Good. And the offshore accounts?" "Frozen," Renata confirmed. "Prescott can't touch a penny. He's been reduced to staying in his cousin's guest room in Hayward." "And Vanessa?" Wyatt's tone remained detached when speaking her name. "Living in a studio apartment in Oakland. The gallery job she lined up fell through after an anonymous tip about her involvement in financial fraud." Boyd's expression remained neutral. "She's working as a receptionist at a dental office." Wyatt leaned back, absorbing the information. The initial shock of betrayal had hardened into something colder, more calculated. This wasn't just about punishment. It was about dismantling their lives with the same methodical precision they planned to use against him. "What about Sylvia Ochoa?" Wyatt asked. Boyd pulled out a file. "Single mom, works in pharmaceutical sales. No direct involvement in the conspiracy, but she knew about the affair. Vanessa confided in her, and she said nothing to me." Wyatt's jaw tightened. "Add her to the list." Renata looked concerned. "Wyatt, I understand going after the main players, but peripheral figures. Everyone who knew and said nothing is complicit." Wyatt cut her off. "Everyone who helped them, enabled them, or stood by while they plotted against me and my son will face consequences." Later that evening, after Theo was asleep, Wyatt met with someone new, Marian Russo, a child psychologist specializing in parental alienation. "Theo's struggling," she explained gently. "He doesn't understand why his mother and godfather, who were constants in his life, are suddenly villains. They betrayed us," Wyatt said flatly. "To you, yes. But to Theo, there's still people he loves. His mother is still his mother. Wyatt paced the room. So what am I supposed to do? Let them back into his life so they can poison him against me? No. Marianne's voice was firm. But complete excision isn't healthy either. Supervised visitation with his mother would give him security while protecting your relationship. Wyatt stared out the window at the Bay Bridge, illuminated against the night sky. I'll consider it. After Marianne left, Wyatt received a text from an unknown number. You've made your point. We're destroyed. Isn't that enough? P. Wyatt typed a response. This isn't about making a point. It's about justice. And we're just getting started. He turned to photos on his desk. Surveillance images of Vanessa entering her shabby apartment building, of Prescott being turned away from a job interview, of Lorena testifying before the grand jury. Each image represented a step in his methodical dismantling of their lives. But it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. In his desk drawer was a black notebook where Wyatt had listed every person involved in the conspiracy, with detailed plans for each. Some would face legal consequences, others professional ruin, others social destruction. Some, like Prescott and Vanessa, would experience all three. The Wyatt Delgado who had trusted too easily, who believed in second chances, was gone. In his place stood a man who would not rest until everyone who had betrayed him had paid the full price. As he closed the notebook, his phone rang. Vanessa again, her nightly call to beg for time with Theo. As always, he let it go to voicemail. Revenge wasn't a dish best served cold, he had discovered. It was a feast best savored slowly, one carefully prepared course at a time. Chapter 5. Structural Integrity. 6 months after the betrayal, Wyatt stood in the newly renovated offices of Phoenix Development, now rebranded as Nemesis Properties. The name change had raised eyebrows in the industry, but Wyatt embraced the symbolism. Theo, now adjusting to his new middle school, had started seeing Vanessa for supervised visits twice monthly. A concession Wyatt had made after careful consideration of Marianne's advice and his own investigation, confirming that while Vanessa had been willing to use Theo as leverage, she genuinely loved their son. The supervised visits served another purpose. They kept Vanessa hopeful that reconciliation might be possible, making her more vulnerable to the next phases of Wyatt's plan. The Davidson project is ready for your final approval, Dante said, entering Wyatt's office with a tablet. And you have a visitor, Miranda Wallace. Wyatt looked up with interest. Miranda was an influential gallery owner who had once mentored Vanessa. Send her in. Miranda entered, elegant in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes. Wyatt, thank you for seeing me. What can I do for you, Miranda? It's about Vanessa. Miranda sat without invitation. She's applied for a curatorial position at my new location in Napa. And suddenly my biggest investor is threatening to pull out if I hire her. My contractors are getting better offers elsewhere. Even my insurance company is raising concerns. Miranda's eyes narrowed. It has your fingerprints all over it. Wyatt shrugged. The art world is competitive. This isn't about competition. This is about destroying her. Miranda leaned forward. She made a terrible mistake. God knows I'm not defending her choices. But this systematic erasure of her every opportunity, it's cruel, Wyatt. Cruel. Wyatt's voice remained calm, but his eyes hardened. Cruel is conspiring with my best friend to steal my child. Cruel is planning to drain accounts I spent decades building while I was at work providing for my family. Cruel is lying to my face for months while plotting my destruction. Miranda held his gaze. I've known you for 13 years. This isn't you. You're right. The old Wyatt died the day he discovered his wife and best friend's betrayal. The man sitting before you has different priorities. He stood, signaling the end of their meeting. If you hire Vanessa, I will ensure your new gallery never opens. It's not a threat. It's a promise. After Miranda left, Dante looked troubled. Was that necessary? Absolutely. Wyatt turned to the window. When they planned their betrayal, they counted on my compassion, my willingness to forgive. That's a weakness I can no longer afford. Across town, Vanessa sat in her therapist's office, exhaustion evident in the dark circles under her eyes. He's systematically destroying every opportunity one finds, she explained, voice breaking. Jobs, housing, even friendships. People I've known for years suddenly won't take my calls. Dr. Amara Okafor nodded sympathetically. Have you considered leaving the area? Starting fresh somewhere Wyatt's influence doesn't reach. And leave Theo? Never. Vanessa wiped away tears. Besides, the custody agreement forbids me from moving more than 50 miles away. Do you regret your actions? Dr. Okafor asked carefully. Vanessa stared out the window. I regret the pain we caused Theo. I regret the way we went about it. She paused, but the marriage had been dead for years. Wyatt was physically present, but emotionally gone. Prescott actually saw me, valued me. And now Prescott can barely look at me. He blames me for the failure of our plan, for underestimating Wyatt. Her laugh was bitter. The irony is that if Wyatt had fought for our marriage with half the energy he's now using to destroy me, we might have saved it. Meanwhile, Prescott Ryland sat in a dingy bar in Hayward, nursing his third whiskey. His cousin had kicked him out last week after Prescott couldn't contribute to rent. The preliminary hearing for his embezzlement charges was scheduled for Monday, and his lawyer, not the high-powered attorney he'd once retained, but a public defender, had advised him to plead guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. A man slid onto the stool beside him. Rough day. Prescott looked up to see Boyd Finch, though he didn't know the PI's connection to Wyatt. You could say that. Let me guess. Woman troubles? Job issues. Prescott laughed bitterly. Try complete life implosion. Been there. Boyd signaled the bartender. Another for my friend here. 3 drinks later, Prescott was pouring out his story to this sympathetic stranger. The thing is, I really loved her. Still do. And the kid, Theo's like a son to me. Sounds like this Wyatt guy overreacted, Boyd said, recording every word through the device in his jacket pocket. He's lost his mind. Turned into some kind of revenge-obsessed monster. Prescott drained his glass. We never meant to hurt him. Just wanted a fresh start. By taking his kid and money, Boyd pointed out. It wasn't like that. Well, not entirely. Prescott slumped. Okay, it was messed up, but now he's destroying lives. Vanessa can't even get a job at a coffee shop because of him. And me? I'm facing prison time. What if there was a way out? Boyd leaned closer. What if someone offered you a deal? Prescott's bloodshot eyes focused. What kind of deal? The kind where you give them something they want, and in return, your legal troubles disappear. Boyd slid a business card across the bar. Call this number tomorrow. Sober. As Boyd left the bar, he called Wyatt. He took the bait. Completely believe I'm working for the DA's office. Good, Wyatt replied. Let's see how quickly he'll throw Vanessa under the bus to save himself. The next phase of his plan was unfolding perfectly. While dismantling their lives piece by piece, Wyatt was also driving a wedge between the conspirators, turning them against each other through carefully orchestrated pressure and false opportunities for escape. By the time he was finished, they wouldn't just be ruined, they would be utterly alone. Chapter 6. The Blueprint Revealed. 9 months after the betrayal, Wyatt stood in a courtroom watching Prescott Ryland being led away in handcuffs after receiving a 7-year sentence for embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy. The harsher-than-expected sentence came after Prescott's attempt to secure a deal by providing false information to whom he thought was the district attorney's office, actually Boyd Finch, in an elaborate sting operation. Prescott's desperate attempt to implicate Vanessa in crimes she hadn't committed backfired spectacularly when Boyd revealed the recorded conversations to the actual prosecutors, demonstrating Prescott's willingness to commit perjury to save himself. As Prescott passed Wyatt in the courtroom, their eyes met. This isn't over, Prescott hissed. Wyatt simply smiled. For you it is. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed Wyatt, asking about his former business partner's betrayal. Justice was served today, he said simply. Now my son and I can move forward. Vanessa watched the news coverage from her apartment, horror dawning as she realized the full extent of Wyatt's orchestration. Prescott had tried to sacrifice her to save himself, falling directly into Wyatt's trap. Her phone rang, Wyatt for the first time in months. Why are you calling? She asked, voice tight with anxiety. To give you a choice. His tone was businesslike. Your supervised visitation with Theo is scheduled for tomorrow. Be there, and we can discuss your future. Miss it, and you'll never see him again. You can't do that legally. Can I? The same judge who just sentenced your lover signed new custody papers this morning based on evidence that you were complicit in the conspiracy. Your choice, Vanessa. The next day, Vanessa arrived at the family counseling center where she met Theo twice monthly. Instead of their usual counselor, she found Wyatt waiting. "Where's Theo?" she demanded. "With Dante. He'll be here shortly." Wyatt gestured to a chair. "Sit. We need to talk." Reluctantly, she sat. 9 months of constant stress had taken their toll. Her once glossy hair was dull, her designer clothes replaced by discount store basics. "What do you want, Wyatt? Haven't you taken enough?" Interesting question from the woman who plotted to take everything from me. He slid a folder across the table. Inside are 2 documents. The first is a comprehensive custody agreement, giving me full legal custody, but allowing you unsupervised visitation on a regular schedule. Hope flickered in Vanessa's eyes. And the second? A confession, detailing your role in the conspiracy, admitting to attempted parental kidnapping, fraud, and conspiring with Prescott to embezzle company funds. Her face paled. "But I never embezzled?" "True, but you knew about it. You benefited from it. The offshore accounts were in both your names. I won't sign a false confession. Then you'll never see Theo unsupervised again." Wyatt's expression remained impassive. "Your choice." Tears filled her eyes. "What happened to you?" "The Wyatt I married would never." "The Wyatt you married died the day you betrayed him." He stood. "You have 10 minutes to decide. Theo will be here then. Either way, you'll see him today. But whether you ever see him alone again depends on what's in that folder when I return." After Wyatt left, Vanessa opened the folder with trembling hands. The confession was damning, admitting to crimes she hadn't committed, portraying her as the mastermind rather than Prescott. When Wyatt returned with Theo, he found the folder on the table. Inside, the custody agreement was signed. The confession remained untouched. "I won't confess to things I didn't do," Vanessa said quietly. "Not even for Theo." Wyatt's expression betrayed momentary surprise. He had expected her to sign anything to secure time with their son. "Mom!" Theo rushed to embrace Vanessa. "Hey, sweetheart." She held him tightly, eyes fixed on Wyatt over their son's shoulder. "Your dad and I were just finishing a conversation." After their visit, Dante took Theo to the car while Wyatt lingered. "I underestimated you," he admitted. "I thought you'd sign anything to secure visitation. Like you underestimated me when you thought I'd never leave." She stood taller than she had in months. "I made terrible mistakes, Wyatt. I was selfish and cowardly in how I handled the end of our marriage. But I won't confess to being something I'm not." "And what are you exactly?" "A flawed person who fell out of love with her husband and handled it badly. A mother who would do anything for her son, except teach him to surrender his integrity." Her gaze was unflinching. "Destroy my life if you must. I've accepted that, but I won't destroy my soul." For the first time since the betrayal, Wyatt felt something crack in his carefully constructed wall of vengeance. Not forgiveness, never that, but perhaps a reluctant respect. "The custody agreement stands," he said finally. "You can see Theo unsupervised every other weekend. But if there's any attempt to turn him against me, there won't be." Her relief was palpable. "Thank you." Back in his car, Wyatt reviewed his revenge ledger. Prescott was in prison. Lorena had been fired and blacklisted in the industry. The family court lawyer who had conspired with them had been disbarred after Wyatt provided evidence of ethical violations. Yet despite these victories, something felt incomplete. Vanessa's unexpected display of integrity had introduced an unwelcome complexity to his narrative of justified retribution. That evening, as Wyatt helped Theo with homework, his son asked unexpectedly, "Dad, are you still angry at Mom?" Wyatt considered his answer carefully. "I'm disappointed in the choices she made. But are you still trying to punish her? Because kids at school say you got Uncle Prescott sent to jail and that you're trying to do the same to Mom." The innocence in Theo's eyes struck Wyatt like a physical blow. "It's complicated, Theo. Adults sometimes do things that have serious consequences. Mom says she made mistakes, but that she still cares about us. She says she's sorry." Wyatt struggled with how to respond. His revenge had been meticulous, calculated, and, in many ways, successful. But looking at his son, he wondered about the collateral damage his vendetta was causing. Later that night, Wyatt reviewed the surveillance Boyd maintained on Vanessa. Recent photos showed her volunteering at a community center, attending therapy, living modestly but with quiet dignity despite Wyatt's systematic dismantling of her opportunities. For the first time, doubt crept in, not about the justice of his cause, but about its scope. The woman in these photos wasn't the calculating villain he'd constructed in his mind, but someone trying to rebuild from the ashes of her mistakes. As he closed the surveillance file, his phone rang. Dante, with news that would shatter his momentary uncertainty and reignite his quest for vengeance with unexpected ferocity. "Boss, you need to get to the office. Now." Dante's voice was urgent. Someone broke in. They took everything on the Davidson project. Ooh, security footage shows Sylvia Ochoa, Theo's teammate's mother. Vanessa's friend. Yes, and she wasn't alone. The second person kept their face hidden, but what, Dante? Based on build and movement patterns, I'd say it was Prescott Ryland. Which means he's not in prison. Wyatt's voice turned to ice. It was all a setup. As he hung up, Wyatt reached for his revenge ledger with renewed purpose. The game had changed, and so would his tactics. Chapter 7, Demolition. How is this possible? Wyatt demanded, watching security footage showing someone matching Prescott's build entering Phoenix Development's offices with Sylvia Ochoa. He was sentenced. I watched them take him away. Dante's expression was grim. I called my contact at the Department of Corrections. No Prescott Ryland was processed yesterday. So the courtroom, the sentencing, it was theater. Wyatt's mind raced. But why? What's the point? Distraction, Boyd suggested. Get you focused on the victory while they executed whatever this is. He gestured to the ransacked project room. The question is, what did they take besides the Davidson files? Wyatt's phone rang, an unknown number. I assume you've discovered our little surprise by now. Prescott's voice was smug. How did you fake a federal sentencing? Money talks, Wyatt. You taught me that. Prescott chuckled. That judge who sentenced me? Retired years ago. The courtroom was a movie set. The reporters were actors. Quite elaborate, I admit, but worth every penny for the look on your face. Why? What's the point of this charade? To show you that you're not the only one who can orchestrate a complex revenge. While you were watching my fictional downfall, my very real associates were gathering everything we need to take back what's ours. Nothing here is yours, Wyatt snapped. That's where you're wrong. The Davidson project? That was my deal from the beginning. You just took credit, like you always did. Prescott's voice hardened. Check your company's servers, then your personal accounts. Then maybe call your attorney about that custody agreement Vanessa signed. The line went dead. Wyatt immediately turned to Dante. Secure everything. Now. Within an hour, the extent of the breach became clear. The Davidson project files were gone, but that was just the surface. Hidden malware had been installed months ago, quietly gathering data and waiting for activation. When triggered, it had transferred proprietary information, client lists, and financial data to external servers. It gets worse, Renata said, entering Wyatt's office. The custody agreement Vanessa signed yesterday, completely different from what we filed with the court. She has copies showing you attempted to coerce her into signing a false confession. Her attorney filed for emergency full custody this morning with supporting evidence. Wyatt stared at her in disbelief. What evidence? Recordings of your conversation. Video of you threatening to withhold access to Theo unless she signed a false confession. Renata looked uncomfortable. Wyatt, this looks very bad. She recorded our meeting? Apparently. And there's more. The judge issued a temporary order granting her full custody pending an emergency hearing tomorrow. Wyatt's world tilted sideways. Where's Theo now? At school. But the order says he's to go home with Vanessa this afternoon. For the first time since the betrayal, real fear gripped Wyatt. He had underestimated them catastrophically. This was never about Prescott going to prison, Boyd realized. That was misdirection. They wanted you focused on him while Vanessa positioned herself for this counterattack. She played me perfectly, Wyatt admitted, rage building beneath his controlled exterior. Set herself up as the victim, made me believe she was broken, waiting for the right moment to strike. What do we do? Dante asked. Wyatt's expression hardened. We burn it all down. Every contingency plan, leverage point, piece of evidence we've been holding back. We use it now. Within hours, Wyatt's team had mobilized. Renata filed emergency motions challenging the custody order. Boyd delivered damning evidence to the actual district attorney showing Prescott's elaborate court deception, a felony in itself. Dante initiated security protocols to isolate and contain the data breach. Wyatt, meanwhile, made a call he'd hoped would never be necessary. Lawson? It's Delgado. I need to activate Scorched Earth. He listened briefly. Yes, I understand the implications. Do it anyway. Protocol Scorched Earth was the nuclear option, a comprehensive information dump to federal authorities revealing not just Prescott's crimes against Phoenix Development, but evidence of his involvement in financial irregularities with previous employers, tax evasion, and questionable international dealings. By evening, federal agents had raided Prescott's hidden apartment, finding him in possession of stolen corporate documents and fraudulent identification. Sylvia Ochoa was taken in for questioning. The judge who had granted Vanessa emergency custody received evidence of her collaboration with Prescott that cast serious doubt on her claims of victimhood. Most critically, Wyatt had Theo brought to a secure location by trusted associates before Vanessa could collect him from school, technically violating the emergency order but ensuring his son's safety. As midnight approached, Wyatt sat in a private study at the Claremont Hotel, watching news reports of Prescott's actual arrest. Theo slept in the adjoining room, unaware of the war being waged over him. Wyatt's phone rang. Vanessa, where's my son? Her voice trembled with fury. Safe. Away from you and your co-conspirators. You're violating a court order. An order obtained through fraud and misrepresentation. Wyatt's tone was ice cold. Did you really think I wouldn't have contingencies in place? That I wouldn't be recording our meetings too? Silence then. What do you want? Come to the Claremont. Room 512. Come alone, or I release everything I have on you to the FBI, including evidence I've kept back until now. 30 minutes later, Vanessa knocked on the hotel room door. Wyatt had aged years in the past day, the strain evident in new lines around his eyes. Is Theo all right? She asked immediately. He's sleeping. Wyatt gestured to a chair. You'll see him after we talk. Vanessa sat, composed despite the circumstances. I underestimated you at first. After the betrayal, I thought you'd collapse, retreat, maybe fight the divorce, but eventually accept it. Instead, you systematically dismantled our lives. And I underestimated you yesterday. Thought you were broken, defeated. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. We were married for 13 years, Wyatt. Did you really think I'd just surrender? The recording was clever, making me believe you had principles, wouldn't sign a false confession, all while recording me to use against me later. That part wasn't an act. She looked him directly in the eyes. I wouldn't sign the confession because it was false, but I'm not above using your threats against you. Wyatt leaned forward. Here's what happens now. You dropped the emergency custody petition. You agree to the original terms I proposed. You cut all ties with Prescott and anyone else involved in the conspiracy. And if I refuse, then I destroy whatever remains of your life. The partial evidence I've released so far becomes complete. Your parents, your friends, Theo, everyone sees exactly who you are and what you've done. Wyatt's voice was emotionless. I held back before. I won't again. Vanessa studied him. You've changed, Wyatt. The man I married could be ruthless in business, but he had lines he wouldn't cross. The man you married died when you betrayed him. Wyatt stood. Your choice, Vanessa, but choose quickly. After a moment of silence, she asked, May I see Theo before I decide? Wyatt hesitated, then nodded. He opened the door to the adjoining room where Theo slept peacefully. Vanessa moved silently to their son's bedside, gently brushing hair from his forehead. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered something Wyatt couldn't hear. When she returned, her decision was made. I'll sign whatever you want, she said quietly, but not because of your threats, Because Theo deserves better than to be caught between us like this. As dawn broke over San Francisco Bay, legal documents were signed and notarized in that hotel room. Vanessa relinquished primary custody, accepting Wyatt's original terms. Whatever counterattack she and Prescott had planned collapsed beneath the weight of Wyatt's overwhelming response. But as she prepared to leave, Vanessa turned back. "You won, Wyatt. Destroyed us completely. I hope it brings you peace." Wyatt's expression remained impassive. This was never about peace. "No," she agreed sadly. "It was about vengeance. And now that you have it, what's left?" As the door closed behind her, Wyatt had no answer. Chapter 8. Structural Collapse. 3 weeks after the confrontation at the Claremont, Wyatt sat in his home office reviewing the aftermath. Prescott remained in federal custody, denied bail due to flight risk. Sylvia Ochoa had accepted a plea deal, testifying against Prescott in exchange for probation. Vanessa had moved to a small apartment in Berkeley, adhering strictly to the visitation schedule for Theo, keeping her head down. On paper, Wyatt had won completely. Yet victory felt hollow. Theo's teacher called again. Dante said from the doorway, "He's withdrawing in class, not participating." Wyatt nodded wearily. Marian mentioned the same thing in their last session. "Have you considered that maybe this endless war is hurting him more than helping?" Wyatt's head snapped up. "You think I should forgive them? After everything they did?" "Not forgive, but maybe conclude." Dante chose his words carefully. "You've won, boss. They're destroyed, but continuing to monitor them, waiting for the next betrayal, it's consuming you." Before Wyatt could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk." "About Theo. Meet me at the Well Coffee Shop. 3 p.m. V." Despite his better judgment, Wyatt went. He found Vanessa alone at a corner table, looking surprisingly composed. "Thank you for coming," she said as he sat across from her. "What about Theo?" She slid a folder across the table. "His therapist's assessment. The one you don't know about." Wyatt frowned, opening the folder to find clinical notes describing Theo's increasing anxiety, depression, and feelings of being caught between warring parents. "He's seeing another therapist?" His school counselor referred him after he had a panic attack in class. Vanessa's eyes were tired but clear. "He's falling apart, Wyatt. And it's not just because of the initial betrayal anymore. It's the ongoing war between us." Wyatt read through the notes, something cold settling in his stomach. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because despite everything, I know you love him." Her voice softened. "We've both been so focused on hurting each other that we've lost sight of what matters most." For the first time in nearly a year, Wyatt looked at Vanessa, really looked at her. Not as the betrayer, the enemy, but as Theo's mother. The woman who, despite her flaws, loved their son. "What are you suggesting?" "A truce. Not for us. That bridge is burned beyond repair. But for Theo." She straightened. "I'm not asking for changes to custody or visitation. Just an end to the active warfare." Wyatt considered her words carefully. "And Prescott is out of my life completely. Whatever I felt for him died when I realized he was willing to sacrifice me to save himself." She met Wyatt's gaze directly. "I made terrible choices, Wyatt. I'll live with the consequences. But Theo shouldn't have to." As Wyatt left the coffee shop, he felt strangely untethered. For nearly a year, revenge had been his driving purpose, the scaffolding around which he'd rebuilt his life. The thought of letting it go left him dizzy with uncertainty. Back at home, Wyatt found Theo in his room, headphones on, withdrawn. When he saw his father, he removed them reluctantly. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, buddy." Wyatt sat on the edge of the bed. "How was school?" Theo shrugged. "Fine." Wyatt picked up a framed photo from Theo's nightstand, a family picture from 2 years ago at Lake Tahoe. They looked happy, unaware of what was coming. "You miss how things were," Wyatt observed softly. Theo's eyes filled with tears. "I just want everyone to stop fighting. I want to see Mom without feeling like I'm betraying you. I want—" "What, Theo? Tell me." "I want my dad back." Theo's voice broke. "The one who taught me to fish and build stuff. Not the one who's always angry and checking security cameras and having secret meetings." The words hit Wyatt like a physical blow. In his single-minded pursuit of vengeance, he had become something his son feared rather than admired. That night, Wyatt sat alone in his study, contemplating the revenge ledger that had guided his actions for nearly a year. The comprehensive file detailed every person involved in the conspiracy, their weaknesses, the specific retribution plan for each. With sudden decision, he closed the file and opened his laptop, typing a message to his team. Terminate active surveillance on all targets. Maintain defensive posture only. Focus resources on rebuilding rather than retribution. As he sent the message, he felt both loss and relief. The quest for revenge had sustained him through the darkest period of his life, but had also consumed him, transforming him into someone he barely recognized. The next morning, Wyatt called Marion Russo, Theo's regular therapist. "I'd like to schedule a joint session," he said, "for Theo and me, and eventually, possibly including his mother." Marianne's surprise was evident in her voice. "That's a significant change in approach, Wyatt. It's time for a different strategy, one that prioritizes Theo's well-being over my need for retribution." Over the following weeks, Wyatt dismantled his revenge apparatus. Not out of forgiveness, never that, but out of recognition that vengeance had become a prison of his own making. Theo began to re-emerge from his shell, especially after Wyatt arranged for a weekend camping trip. Just the two of them in the Sierra Nevada mountains, away from surveillance and security, focusing simply on being father and son. Around a campfire under stars brighter than any city sky could offer, Theo asked the question Wyatt had been dreading. "Dad, do you still hate Mom?" Wyatt poked at the fire, considering his answer carefully. "I don't hate her, Theo. I'm angry at the choices she made. I don't think I'll ever fully trust her again. But hate requires energy I'd rather put elsewhere now." "Like where?" "Like here, with you." Wyatt smiled at his son, building something new instead of tearing things down. As they talked into the night, Wyatt realized this was the first time in a year he had gone an entire day without checking surveillance reports or revenge scenarios. The obsession was loosening its grip. But just as Wyatt began to imagine a future beyond vengeance, a text message shattered his emerging peace. "Did you really think it was over? Check your company server." A cold, familiar rage flooded back instantly. Prescott was supposed to be in federal custody awaiting trial. How was he sending texts? Wyatt called Dante immediately. "Check the servers. Now." Full security sweep. "Already on it." Dante responded tensely. "Boss, it's bad. Someone's inside our system. Not just accessing files, they're wiping everything. Client data, project files, financial records. How is this possible? Prescott's in custody. Either he has outside help or what? Or he was never the real architect of the conspiracy to begin with." As the implications sank in, Wyatt realized his victory had been an illusion. The war wasn't over. It was merely entering its final, most devastating phase. Chapter 9. The Final Blueprint. Wyatt cut the camping trip short, returning to San Francisco to find his company in chaos. Nemesis Properties servers had been wiped clean, backups corrupted, sensitive client information leaked to competitors. The stock was in free fall. "How bad is it?" Wyatt asked Renata in his office, where his crisis team had gathered. "Catastrophic," she admitted. The data breach triggered contractual penalties with major clients. The SEC is investigating due to the market impact. And there's more. She hesitated. The leak included personal communications suggesting you've been using company resources for your vendetta against Prescott and Vanessa. "Which is technically true," Dante pointed out grimly. "Who's behind this?" Wyatt demanded. "Prescott's in federal custody. Vanessa doesn't have the technical expertise." Boyd cleared his throat. "About that, I've been reviewing security footage from Prescott's apartment on the day of the raid. There's something you need to see." He played a video showing federal agents leading Prescott away in handcuffs. But unlike the fake courtroom scenario, this arrest was real. "Watch the background," Boyd instructed, pointing to a figure observing from a parked car, familiar yet unexpected. "Is that Lorena?" Wyatt leaned closer. "Our former accountant?" "The same, who supposedly turned state's evidence against Prescott." Boyd switched to another clip. "And here she is 3 days ago, visiting him in federal detention. She played us, Dante realized, made us think she was a minor player turning on Prescott when she was working with him all along. Not with him, Wyatt corrected, pieces falling into place. Above him, Lorena wasn't Prescott's accomplice. He was hers. Further investigation confirmed Wyatt's theory. Lorena had orchestrated the entire conspiracy from the beginning, using Prescott's feelings for Vanessa, manipulating both of them while keeping her role minimal and overlooked. Classic misdirection, Boyd explained. While we focused on the obvious betrayal, the affair, the attempted kidnapping, she was systematically stealing company technology, client relationships, and intellectual property. The personal drama was just cover for corporate espionage. Wyatt paced his office. But why now? Why trigger this nuclear option when Prescott's in custody? Because of this, Renata handed him a business filing. Lorena just launched a new firm, Phoenix Redux, using our stolen client data and proprietary designs. The timing isn't coincidental. With our data and reputation compromised, our clients are jumping ship directly to her. She planned this from the beginning, Wyatt realized. A year-long corporate takeover disguised as a personal betrayal. The revelation should have devastated him. Instead, Wyatt felt a strange clarity. For a year, he'd been fighting the wrong war, or at least an incomplete one. So what now? Dante asked. We're vulnerable on all fronts. Wyatt stared out at the San Francisco skyline, mind racing. Now we adapt. Change the battlefield. He turned to his team. What's our most valuable remaining asset? The Davidson Project, Renata answered. Despite everything, we still hold the exclusive development rights. And coincidentally, it's what Lorena tried to steal first, Wyatt noted. There's something special about Davidson. Something she needs. Over the next 72 hours, Wyatt worked without sleep, constructing a counter-strategy that would make his previous revenge plans look simplistic by comparison. Step 1 was reaching out to Vanessa. They met at a neutral location, a bench overlooking the Bay Bridge. Thank you for coming, Wyatt said as she sat beside him, maintaining careful distance. Your message said it was important. About Theo's safety. Her voice was guarded. It is. Wyatt handed her a file. The person behind everything. It wasn't Prescott. It was Lorena. Vanessa flipped through the evidence, confusion turning to shock. She approached me over a year ago, claiming she had evidence you were embezzling from the company. Said you were planning to leave me. Take Theo, leave me with nothing. Her voice shook. She showed me documents, recordings. I believed her. She played us all. Wyatt's tone held no accusation. She needed a convincing personal drama to cover her corporate espionage. So what does this mean for Theo? For us, it means we have a common enemy. And for our son's sake, we need a different approach. Wyatt met her eyes directly. Not reconciliation. That bridge is burned. But perhaps alliance. What followed was the most honest conversation they'd had in years. Vanessa admitted how Lorena had cultivated her insecurities, fed her evidence of Wyatt's supposed betrayal, then introduced her to Prescott as a confidant who became more. I'm not excusing my choices, she said quietly. The affair was real. The decision to leave was mine. But the rest, the accounts, the custody plans, those were engineered by Lorena. She convinced us Theo would be collateral damage in your alleged plans to abandon us. Step 2 involved a meeting with Prescott in federal detention, a meeting Boyd arranged through his law enforcement contacts. Prescott's arrogance had faded during his months in custody. He sat across from Wyatt in Prison Orange, eyes wary. Come to gloat, he asked. Come to offer a deal. Wyatt placed a document on the table. Testimony against Lorena in exchange for leniency. Prescott laughed bitterly. You think I betray her? After everything, I think you already know she betrayed you. Wyatt pushed a tablet across the table, showing footage of Lorena meeting with Wyatt's competitors. While you're sitting here taking the fall, she's using everything she stole through you to build her own empire. As understanding dawned in Prescott's eyes, Wyatt continued. She used your feelings for Vanessa to manipulate you. Used my marriage as a battlefield to distract from her real target, Phoenix Development's intellectual property and client relationships. By the time Wyatt left, Prescott had signed a cooperation agreement. With steps 1 and 2 complete, Wyatt executed the final phase of his plan, a carefully orchestrated trap using the Davidson Project as bait. Nemesis Properties announced an emergency partnership with Global Development Corporation to save the troubled Davidson Project, a move that would effectively place their most valuable remaining asset beyond Lorena's reach. As Wyatt had anticipated, Lorena moved quickly to prevent the deal, launching a hostile takeover attempt backed by investors who had been fed misleading information about Nemesis's stability. The shareholders' meeting where the fate of the company would be decided became the stage for Wyatt's ultimate counterstrike. As Lorena confidently presented her takeover plan to the assembled shareholders and board members, Wyatt waited patiently in the back of the room. When she finished to approving murmurs, he stepped forward. An impressive presentation, he acknowledged. Ms. Avila has painted a compelling picture of a company in crisis and offered herself as the solution. He paused. Unfortunately, her entire premise is a fraud. Before Lorena could respond, the doors opened to admit federal agents led by Boyd's law enforcement contact. Behind them came Prescott, Vanessa, and a team of forensic accountants. Over the next hour, Wyatt systematically dismantled Lorena's scheme, presenting evidence of her corporate espionage, the manipulation of Prescott and Vanessa, and her orchestration of the data breach that had nearly destroyed Nemesis Properties. Most devastatingly, he revealed that the emergency partnership with Global Development had been a fiction, a trap designed to lure Lorena into revealing her hand and her network of co-conspirators. The Davidson Project was never in danger, Wyatt explained to the stunned shareholders. But it was uniquely valuable because of something Ms. Avila discovered during her time at Phoenix Development. He displayed geological surveys on the presentation screen. Rare earth elements, essential for technology manufacturing, worth billions in the right hands. As Lorena was led away in handcuffs, she locked eyes with Wyatt. "This isn't over. For you, it is," he replied, echoing the words he'd once said to Prescott. In the aftermath, Nemesis Properties didn't just recover, it thrived. The exposure of Lorena's espionage became a textbook case of corporate security, with Wyatt positioning the company as a leader in business intelligence protection. Prescott received a reduced sentence in exchange for his cooperation, though his reputation was irreparably damaged. Upon his eventual release, he left California altogether, understanding that any attempt to contact Wyatt or his family would trigger release of even more damaging evidence. Vanessa and Wyatt established a functional co-parenting relationship focused solely on Theo's well-being. The divorce was finalized without further conflict, both parties accepting that trust once broken could never be fully restored. 1 year after Lorena's arrest, Wyatt sat in his rebuilt office overlooking San Francisco Bay. Dante entered with the morning reports. Lorena's appeal was denied, he announced. 15 years. No possibility of early parole. Wyatt nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. And the Davidson Project? Breaking ground next month. Preliminary extraction suggests the rare earth deposits are even larger than initially estimated. Good. Wyatt turned to a framed photo on his desk. Not the old family portrait, but a new one of him and Theo on a fishing trip. Any issues with the custody arrangement this week? None. Vanessa followed the schedule exactly. Dante hesitated. She asked if Theo could stay an extra day next weekend for her mother's birthday celebration. That works fine. Tell her yes. As Dante left, Wyatt opened his desk drawer and removed the black revenge ledger that had once contained his meticulously detailed plans for retribution against everyone who had betrayed him. Its pages were now blank, not because he had forgiven, but because his vengeance was complete. The betrayal had transformed Wyatt Delgado. The trusting man who believed in second chances was gone forever. In his place stood someone harder, more calculating, unwilling to forgive betrayal, but wise enough to recognize when justice had been served. He had not forgotten. He had not forgiven. But he had moved forward, on his terms, with his son, and with the knowledge that those who had conspired against him had paid their full measure. And in the end, that was enough. And there you have it, Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended video